Hey guys, my name is Daniel Puder, and you're watching the WZWA Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show here on the WZWA Network. I am your host with the most on the West Coast, Karlifornia Infirri. It is great to be with you here tonight and today. And I want to introduce, as per usual, my co-host here, Mr. 55 Alive, Jack Wallace. Jack, how are you tonight, my friend?
Doing well. As per usual, it is, usually 11 p.m. when we do these interviews. So I've been awake for almost 24 hours now, but for these interviews, it's worth it. They're a lot of fun. They're exciting. And we get to talk to a lot of extremely interesting people, people with a lot of interesting stories. And we've got one of those people with us right now.
You do, Jack. I'm very excited. I've been just obsessively been doing research the last few days, and there's just so much I want to talk about. I'm so passionate about some of the things that I found out as well, and I hope that some of my insight, I hope that our guest here today really appreciates it. Anyway, without any further ado, it is mine and Jack's honor here on the WZWA Network to introduce our guest here today. He is the $1 Million Tough Enough winner from 2003, I believe. He is the one and only Daniel Puder. Daniel, how are you, my friend?
Guys, thanks for having me on. I am amazing.
That's awesome, man. I can literally feel the positivity just screaming at me after that that response there, man. It's great.
This thing, you might as well, 2020 was a crazy year. And at the end of the day, so much going on, and why not be blessed for life and family and the people we have around us? So it's awesome.
That's great, man.
Great, bro.
A lot of people do sort of look on this year being as a sort of a downer year, but I think a lot of us have accomplished a lot of things in this year as well. I mean, we started this podcast, and in my eyes, just starting the podcast is an accomplishment. And without the shit show that 2020 has been, I don't think we would have ended up doing so. So, I mean, for everyone, we've all sort of hit our goals, and it's been, great year depending on the way you look at it, man.
I love it, guys. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate you guys.
Awesome, man. No, this is going to be great. So the first round of questions, Daniel, I wanted to ask, were you a wrestling fan growing up?
So I watched wrestling. I wasn't a huge fan. I didn't go to events, but I watched one of my buddies, Kyle Kingsbury. He fought for the UFC. One of my best friends in elementary or middle school and high school. And he had it on all the time. So I was watching it, but I wasn't the biggest fan. He was watching it every week, on every show. So I definitely loved, the athleticism. I was a wrestler, was starting in 6th grade. So I love the amateur side of it. With the personality side. If you guys watch my Tough Enough, you see my personality come out and just rock and roll. So it was great. And I watched a little bit of MMA when I started getting into my teens too. So it was kind of a little bit back and forth.
And were you a UFC fan when they had their first show in 93?
So 93 would have made me, I'm just thinking about this. No, I was not a fan at that point. So I grew up in a more conservative home where we didn't have TV when I was younger. We might have had it. I take that back. It wasn't that we didn't have TV. There was times we didn't, literally my parents were like, nope, we're getting rid of the TV. And they moved the TV out of the house. So we didn't have access to TV like that. So we'd go over to friends' houses and watch it. But my brother and I were really active. We played a lot of sports. We were studying. We were with our family. So, I started watching when I was about 16 years old, 17 years old, really getting into it, definitely when I was training.
That's great, man. Yeah, because it seemed like, we've had this conversation with people like Al Snow, and we've also had Dan Servo on the show who have also spoken about these sort of old days of the UFC. So we sort of had a bit of interest in that. So I think it would have been interesting for you as well, given your background. But I also wanted to ask, what was high school like for you as well?
High school was challenging. When I was in high school, I was labeled, when I was in elementary school, I was labeled learning disabled.
Right.
So, so I own private schools now. And what's crazy is the system will label you what you're not good at, but they'll never teach you what you are good at. So school was super challenging for me. I was put in special ed classes where they basically put the kids that are slow at stuff. They never inspire. I mean, when I say inspire, and I can't say they never inspire you, but it was very challenging going to classes, being pulled out of other classes. It was also very challenging not being able to necessarily read at the pace of other people, or not be able to keep up in some of the classes. High school, I started getting a little bit better at everything, but when I was 16 years old, I got into a fight, and I ended up going to juvenile hall, and that was like a turning point in my life because I was super angry. I didn't know who to or how to understand my emotional or belief intelligence. So I didn't understand how to understand myself. Nobody ever taught me that. They're like, oh, just go be nice to people, like go be kind, don't bully. But most people never teach other people like we teach kids today to learn how to understand their emotions and their beliefs that create their emotions.
Yeah.
And how to surround themselves with good people in life, and how to pick good people, and how to understand how to create and your vision and live on purpose, and figure out what you're really about. But when I was a kid, and in most schools in the country, they don't teach that. So we do it because we're private, and we do it because the policy allows us to, and that's why I started the system. But it's pretty crazy to be able to see how difficult it can be. And I find a lot of the kids that were in the same situation, they didn't do as well because they didn't have that, either the team, the support, the love, the parents. And so my senior year of high school, I actually went to this program called middle college, which was like in between college and high school. And so it was a 1-year program. I took a couple high school classes on the college campus, and then I took college classes as my electives. So I was blessed, but I did not want to be at high school. I thought it was a waste of time. And today we have so many kids that think the same thing. I see it around the country. I mean, most people are like, why do I have to go to high school? Why do I have to go to college? Like the stuff they teach you in high school and college, you can learn on Google.
Yeah.
Right. You learn on YouTube. Like if I want to learn something now, I go to YouTube, and I'm if I want to put something together, right? Like, so it's interesting to be able to see how difficult it was. But it's also amazing for the friendships that I gained and the relationships I built. So yeah, pretty interesting life.
Yeah, man, what a time would have been, sort of being in high school. But I guess your experience in high school as well would have sort of given you, excuse me, that knowledge and experience to be able to put together the, your My Life, My Power Prep Academy. Before we actually jump into wrestling and MMA, I wanted to actually talk more about the Prep Academy. Sort of talk to us about the process of that, the sort of kids you are taking in as well, and maybe some of the success stories you've had in the past.
Wow. So I appreciate the questions. So I started the nonprofit in 2010.
Yeah.
And the idea around building a nonprofit was, how do I solve a problem of kids that are being bullied, issues that are going on in communities, like what's the mindset, what's really going on? And what I found was the educational system does not teach. They tell kids don't do drugs, don't bully. It's a Band-Aid.
Yeah.
And so I did that for 8 years, since 2010. I spoke around the country. I partnered with organizations, big ones, the school resource organizations, counseling organizations. I spoke at PTAs. I spoke at board school board conferences. I mean, I have a really amazing understanding of how to solve a problem now.
Yeah.
The challenge is that the system, as a public school system, will not let the problem be solved because they put everybody in a box. There's no real knit close, like people are still teaching to a book where you and I, if we want to learn something, we go on the internet.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so I looked at all these different systems and I'm like, okay, number one, so I think school is good for two things. One is for building relationships.
Yeah.
Two is for learning how to learn. It's not the content you learn, it's the practice and the repetition and the understanding that the mindset of a human knows how to process information, whether you're a kinesthetic learner, visual, auditory learner. Like, how do you learn and take in info? And then how do you then go produce results? Because you can understand something, but it doesn't mean that you can produce anything in this world. And the third part is, it doesn't mean you're a good human. You could be a really crappy person that's really smart, and everybody in the world hates you because you hate yourself.
Yeah.
So
I feel that.
my thought was, how do I start a school system that works with students like I was when I was a kid, that gives them the opportunity, that helps them understand their vision, that helps them live on purpose, that puts the right team together, that shows them what maybe their challenges are, but also shows them what they're really great at, and shows them how to excel in their life and become an amazing human. And now we have multiple campuses in South Florida, and we're state funded. We're global corporate accredited through Cognia, which is one of the biggest accreditations in the world. And we're having fun. We're transforming lives. We have over 350 kids. And I get to solve problems. Like I'm taking kids that are, that have been sex trafficked, or that have been that are homeless, that are still homeless, that are going to my school, that are, a couple of them were living in a vehicle last year. So it's just a huge blessing where another public school might say, oh no, you have to pay a registration fee. And I will say no, our deans will say, no, you can come to our school and waive that registration fee because we understand where you're at.
Yeah.
Because other people limit people from getting where they need to go. And it's like, we have so many resources in this world. Why are we not serving other people? I mean, I'm waiving a $300 fee, right? Like, you're living in a car. You're a mother trying to provide for your couple kids, and your ex-husband or whatever's going on abused you, so you left the house and you're living in a car so that you can make sure your kids are safe, but you don't have the resource and the friendships or the whatever it was to be able to get what you want. And so it's like, how do we help them go from where they're at to where they want to go as fast as possible and really serve those families?
Man, that's incredible.
Awesome, man.
That's sort of one of those things that just makes you feel good, eh? Because like in Australia, well, at least in Perth, I don't know of anything like that. I'm 5 years out of high school, and I can tell you right now, in those 5 years, in the last 5 years, I've used nothing that I learned. So I'm really learning so much now since I've left school, and it's just the internet, YouTube,
Dude.
stuff that school should have taught me. And there's so many kids I know in families as well that went through so much hardship because they couldn't pay fees, or just something ridiculous, like something as small as a school uniform costing too much money.
Yep.
So I think it's absolutely amazing what you're doing, and I know that you're helping so many people out there and so many families, and it's so great. So thank you for sharing that with us.
And all of our schools are fully digital. So you learn the content from video, from audio. So if you can't read as well, let's say, you push a button and it will read to you in your language.
Oh, wow.
So we have people, we just had somebody graduate from China. We had it's Chinese, right? Like, it doesn't speak English that well. Like, we had somebody graduate from, wasn't Venezuela. We've had people there too. Guatemala last year, 19-year-old kid, speaks Spanish like 75%, 25% English. He's got a full-time job. He's laying wire with a company. He's rocking his life, but he didn't have enough time to be able to go to school from 8 to 5 or 8 to 4 and he couldn't speak. He had to be put in slower classes because he had learning English learning challenges, and so he was being held back because he had to provide for his family. So it's like, what do you do at the end of the day? So we found a system to be able where I can go international. I'd love to come over to Australia, guys. We'll talk about it, but it'd be great. Why not I want to put schools all around the world to be able to add value, but then see perspective with good people. Because if you guys have one challenge where you're at or wherever, then we can learn from that and we can grow from it. So, but I don't think the system today is changing fast enough. And that's why why we have 8,000 kids in America dropping out of school every day on average.
Yeah.
Wow. Every day. Wow.
Every day. How do you have 8,000 kids? That's like 4 high schools, like walking out and saying, see ya.
Yeah.
Jeez. That's a crazy statistic. That's insane.
I think Australia does need something like that, though. I think we are way behind the times over here.
They're still teaching.
I graduated in 2004. It's a long time ago now, but I have a hard time believing that with the way our country goes, that they're cutting edge and they're doing anything anywhere near as close as that.
And that's a challenge. Is people are like, no, don't privatize education. I'm like, hold on, why not? Every other thing that's privatized, technology, energy, look at Tesla, look at SpaceX, look at all these other companies we have, at least in America, that are smashing it, that are privatized. Yeah. And they're doing things above and beyond any public. Like, we have NASA here, and, for 30 years, we did minor stuff compared to what Elon Musk has done with SpaceX in 5 years.
Yeah.
Yep. He revolutionized solar, cars, and SpaceX. And now he's doing boring in tunnels. Now he's doing freaking these things that you clip onto your head and you can see Google. Like privatization of something adds value because it brings it up to the current moment and looks at the future of what's going to be needed.
That's right. Yeah. I can definitely see your sort of prep academy becoming the future of education. A lot of places will sort of follow suit in it as well, man.
Yes.
I can tell you, like, being a recent graduate from a high school, like a regular old public high school, man, I can tell you right now, your system would not only attract a lot of kids, because I still know so much, like, of just nothing that I wish school would teach me, but I have to go to the internet and learn it myself now. So it's just,
yeah.
and it's the same thing. It's the same thing with college. I had a kid get a degree in business, and he works for me at a local college, and he's a rock star. Hustles like this kid. His name is Jake Jones. He's produced video content and my vlogs, and now he's just doing business development with investors and like. And he said, he goes, I learned more in the first 4 months working with you than in the 4 years in college.
Oh man.
So I'm like, hold on a second. You paid the college 100 G's to learn what you learned getting paid by me in 4 months.
The system. So are these kids like, are they, as soon as they're graduating, are they straight on going to employment that's being sort of, are you providing them the employment and the opportunities for these degrees? Are they actually completing these degrees with you in your academy? Yep. I've just got.
Yep. So our high school is a fully accredited school. So for instance, so the U.S. Army in South Florida is sending us kids that either are getting a GED. It's like you can test out of high school kind of thing here, or so some high school diplomas. So if you want to go into the military, you need to have a certain level of accreditation for your school.
Yeah.
Our school has the highest. So what the U.S. Army did in Department of Defense down here in South Florida is they looked at where's our accreditation, and they have a challenge recruiting kids because they come in with getting a GED or a crappy high school diploma, and they're like, nope, go back to My Life, My Power. And so we have an amazing program. So we want I want to give kids options and opportunity. So it's not necessarily like what I want, but it's what their passion is. So I'm like, if you can do your passion every day and make money, so I don't look at like, let's work 5 or 6 days a week to be able to have 1 or 2 days off. Like that doesn't make sense. That never made sense to me. So it's like, do what you love to do 7 days a week and enjoy your whole life, because everybody has a passion for something. So we inspire kids for 3 things. One, when kids leave us, they have LinkedIn accounts, they have resumes. We want them to either go to college, have a job, or go into the military. So those are 3 main options. College can consist of a 4-year college. It can consist of like a 2-year junior college or a local college. It can consist of a trade school. I think trades are going to be some of the future, because if you can get in and out of a trade school and become a plumber and make $75 an hour, you're doing better than somebody that has $100,000 debt. If you have like a $10,000 debt or a $5,000, or even if you work your way through, and you're making more per hour than the person with more debt. So you're actually making more. People don't understand that. They're like, if I get a business degree, I can make $100,000. Well, guess what? If you're a plumber and you own a company, you can make $200,000. So at the end of the day, why, like, people don't think about it a lot of time. And our goal obviously is to build, we're doing a huge push this year with local companies and getting the local companies to come in and speak to our kids. Obviously it's COVID, it's challenging, but we have speakers all the time coming in to speak to our kids so that we can get them to be able to see different perspectives. Because somebody might want to say, hey, I want to be a lawyer. And we're like, okay, do you want to be a lawyer or a judge? Do you want to be like long term? Like you start off being a lawyer, then you move to a judge. Do you want to go to law school? Why do you want to go to law school? What's the purpose around it? You want to learn about poli-sci, or do you want to go into politics? So it's interesting to be able to see why people do what they do. And most people, when we dive in, when our deans, our supervisors, or teachers, or myself, when we dive in, we ask people why. Like, let's get to the root. And most people have no clue because they've never researched it. They've never met a lawyer. They've never met, like, they're like, oh, I want to become a criminal defense attorney. Or we had a couple kids this year want to become attorneys for, I'm blanking on the name, for people coming in from other countries to get citizenship attorney. What is that called in our country?
God.
I'm blanking.
No, I would know.
Okay, so I got hidden head for a living, so that's my one hidden head for the day. But I mean, it's great. It's great to figure out what people really want, but get them to understand also what it takes, because they go, I want to be a lawyer, but they don't want to read. They're not good at reading. They don't want to read. They don't like to read. Guess what? You get to read a lot of case law, and you get to do a lot in law school and read hundreds of pages a week potentially. So there's a lot that's going on, and where the future of the market is. Most people don't understand it. Some kids are like, I want to be an auto mechanic and have my own auto shop. Well, guess what? In 20 years, from what I've heard from some of my mentors, we're never going to have another car. You're never going to buy another car. It's a self-driving car. You're never going to take it to the auto shop. It's going to be like an Uber with self-driving. And the auto shop, the car is going to roll up, and there's a robot mechanic that's going to lift it up, fix the car, put it back down. It's going to drive back out, recharge itself, and do everything. So the whole world's changing really quick, but people don't look at the future of the market. So they're going to go into something not knowing where it's going to go, and then they're going to be disappointed when they have debt and bills and their market sucks and dies in 20 years.
Yeah, man, exactly right. People don't look far ahead enough, man. I feel that. I'm going to throw it back to Carl, and we'll get the next round of questions going.
Cool, bro. So we want to fast forward in your journey in life to the Tough Enough application process. I wanted to know how you went about that and what you did, and obviously how you ended up finding out that you were going to be in it.
Wow. So Tough Enough process. So originally I was hanging out with Dave Meltzer.
Yep.
and he's one of my mentors, very good friend of mine. And I was hanging out with him, we're watching, and his wife is like, "You need to try out for Tough Enough." And he's like, "You should do it." And I'm like, "Okay." And this was Tough Enough 3. So this is the one before. I think I've talked about this like once on the I think it's once on a show before, but hardly anybody knows this. So I went down to, I believe it was in Colorado, and I tried out and I made it. But I had some stuff. I was in college. I had some stuff going on in my life that that would not allow me to participate in the timing. So they said, "Here's the deal. In the next one, please try out." So I tried out for Tough Enough 4. I sent a video, and my brother did the video. It's pretty freaking funny. It's online. You guys can see it. I'm like frolicking, riding my motorcycle, I cut a promo. My brother put this whole promo together for me. Cut a whole promo. It's really funny. And they called me up and they're like, you have the best video we've ever seen. So that was me with brown hair, with no tan. And I was in college wrestling and I was like 30 pounds overweight compared to where I should be if I want to be an athlete, right? I was off season. So I talked to a guy named Ed Connors, who has built a lot of people, a lot of pro wrestlers. He was the reason John Cena became John Cena. He's helped so many athletes. He was one of the big guys at Gold's Gym back in the day. And he said 3 things to me. He goes, "Get a tan, get a 6-pack, and bleach your hair." And then Dave Meltzer said, "You have to start doing promos. And I was horrible at promos. Horrible. You guys could see it in my tryouts. So don't talk too much smack, but that was, I've learned, I've grown, and I've won. So, promos was my challenge. So Dave told me that, and then Dave gave me an obituary book that he wrote of, I think it was 12 dead wrestlers that he wrote. And I looked at it before I left and I go, what's the deal? And he said, most people die. And they get caught up in the world of entertainment and drugs and drinking. He's like, that's not what I want for you. So we went down to Venice Beach. I kicked butt, top 50. And then they picked top 8 after 2 days. And you had Dan Rodheimer, and you had some amazing, talented, guys that were just rock stars in life. And so it was a huge blessing to be able to spend time down there competing. And it was even a bigger blessing because then I had to go drop out of college. So I had like a week to drop out of college, something like that, and wrap everything up. And then get to Connecticut. And so we the one thing that I did, and I knew how to train properly. Frank Shamrock, Bob Cook, Javier Mendez from American Kickboxing Academy, they trained me. They got me to get, I got my ass kicked back in the day. And so now I was, in my 20s and I'm ready to rock and roll. So trained properly, trained hard, had the right people on my team, and I went into it. And the other guys, they wanted to lift weights all the time. I love to do cardio. I lifted a little bit, but I really wanted to be in really good shape. Yeah. I don't complain, and I put 100% into it.
Yeah, man. I've seen every season of Tough Enough, and I know a lot of problems some people had on those shows was that they didn't prepare themselves beforehand, cardio-wise, so they couldn't keep up.
So what they expect.
I know, man. Like they're gonna really put the pressure on you to make sure that you're able to handle any situation you're thrusted into. And I'm sure we're going to get to some of those situations later, Daniel. But you were smart, and who better than Frank Shamrock as well, someone that can help you along the way. I mean, that's I've seen every UFC fight he's ever had, and that guy is a freak of nature.
Yep.
So I wanted to ask you about once you got through that phase of Tough Enough and you'd finally been selected to be someone that was going to be on SmackDown doing these segments every single week. Could you tell me about the first day that you were backstage at WWE for the Tough Enough competitions, and tell me a little bit about what they would say to you beforehand and how they would prepare you and everybody else that you were with for the segments that you would do.
So first of all, we didn't get prepared. We were told when you say prepared is like, hey guys, here's what we're going to do tomorrow. Let's prep for this. That sort of thing. No, there was no prep.
All right.
There was show up at this time and I'll tell you what's going to happen.
Oof.
So we would show up, like we walked in, they're like, the first day they're like, oh, we're going to walk into the locker room all together. Okay. So we walked in and then Big Show pulls his crap. And, you know, and it's interesting to be able to see, obviously that's what they wanted. They wanted storyline. And I heard we had 3 or 4 times the ratings as the normal SmackDown show because it wasn't scripted, because people really wanted to see us get our butts whooped, or us, you know, fall on our faces, by like Kurt Angle or by Big Show or by, you know, anybody else that came out, Hardcore Holly, you know, whoever that was. So, we were not prepped at all. There was weeks where we would run sprints, eat pasta, run more sprints or liners, and you know, people were puking. You know, that week I was at least smart enough to know that they were going to run us probably more, and I didn't eat all my pasta, but I was playing the entertainment side that they wanted because I was playing into their, you know, to their stuff. I was like, oh man, so. And I would be like milking it, right? Like that's what they want. Like they wanted me to play, I played, right? So I started waking up to like, this is a competition to win. And it was to win by fan votes. And some of the competitions, you know, to people, it's to look good. Entertainment, same thing with politics. Look at, I mean, I don't know about your politicians over there. I've seen some, at least I've heard some stuff about your PM and different people. You know, at the end of the day, it's a whole gimmick. You know, it's like let's look and then let's do this, right? And so I learned how to do that. And you know, I mean, it's acting, right? It's not even acting. It's a way of being. You put it on, and so it was good. Like you know, I won the vote, but I really trained for it. Like I outperformed her. I was the only guy to stay in Connecticut for the whole 8 weeks of Tough Enough that really committed. Everybody else went home during the weeks or during their off time.
Right. Yeah.
So I put the time and effort into it. I built the relationships. I went to headquarters almost every day when I was back, and I got my workouts in Connecticut. I did what I needed to do. What I wouldn't do is I wouldn't buy into people's BS, and I wouldn't let people take advantage. And so I was very, like at one point, and I've told this story before, Bill DeMont, like we were doing rolls and moves, and he grabbed somebody by the finger and bent it backwards. And, you know, I mean, to me, that's not a good coach. That's not a good mentor. That's not like, you're not going to teach. It's like a militaristic BS, like regime, you know? And so he did it to me at once. And the other guy like crumbled, please don't do it, please, like crying. And I was like, are you going to break it or are you going to let me do this again? Like, teach me how to like do this right. You don't have to threaten me, you know? So I stood up for myself. I didn't drink alcohol. A lot of people drink alcohol, but they said they wouldn't drink alcohol, you know? And so it's just really interesting to me to be able to see what people are willing to do to get what they want. And I'm willing to bust my butt and be authentic, but a lot of people are not. They're willing to change. The only guy I'm really good friends with still till today is Dan Rodheimer. He's an amazing human. You guys should definitely interview him. He just ran for U.S. Congress, and I love who he is. You know, he's gone through his challenges, gone through his ups, gone through his downs, and built companies and done amazing things, and has a great wife and kids, and you know. And so it's interesting, you know, how people can judge politicians for what they're not good at, but you know what, they don't really get to know them for who they really are.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, thank you for the insight there on the early days of you being a part of Tough Enough. And I will say, like, I watched it every week, and it was quite clear from the get-go who was going to end up winning this thing, because you got it. You got it, bro. And it was just obvious, like, this Daniel Puder guy is going to win. He's going to win. I wanted to tell you a little story that Doug Basham told us when we interviewed him a few weeks ago. he said that there was the segment where everyone had to try and get past the Basham brothers to whatever it was to get to something. That was the goal.
The flag.
To get past the flag. That's it.
Capture the flag. Yes.
Capture the flag. And he said that backstage there was a situation. I don't know if it was with Vince. I think it was with Vince, Jack. But Doug had essentially had said to us, like, if you let anyone get past you both, like, don't expect to be back on the show anytime soon. Essentially, you're going to get fired for this. Were you aware of that going into that segment, that they're literally their career in WWE was on the line if they let anyone get past them?
No. So, yeah. So Doug told me that after.
Oh my God.
It's so crazy.
Yeah, that's
like, nuts. I mean, think about this. Think about this. Think about a company that would treat you that way.
Exactly.
So in entertainment, just in general, I've been treated multiple ways like that. And I think that's why today, my staff, my people that work for our companies, we put a lot of effort into building them, not into hurting them or threatening.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say that, number one, as a context. Doug's an amazing guy. I really love him. They are, what they almost lost. I almost made them get fired.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, Doug. Or not sorry. So, it was a competition. Like, everybody's like, oh, Puder got the farthest because he was one of the last ones. Well, you know what? Step it up, dude. Like, I was also I also won. We did a mile. We trained every morning in Connecticut, and I won the mile run. I was the fastest every day. So there's things that I did that nobody else saw. That, like, I wouldn't say a better athlete, but I train harder, and I know I've learned how to train my body, my mind, my heart, my spirit to be able to become the best I can become.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, and I just loved Doug's story on it, because beforehand they had been essentially doing nothing for I don't know how many months on end, just because Doug asked a question to Michael Hayes. Hey, shouldn't we dropping the tag titles at the pay-per-view, not on television? And because you asked one question, that's it. You drop the belts tonight. You're going to be on WWE Velocity for the next 6-7 months. What the hell kind of Kingdom of Fear fucking bullshit is that? Creating this Kingdom of Fear where you can't even do one little thing like ask a question. Unbelievable.
Well, it's I look at people's authenticity on that at this point. People ask me all the time, would you want to go back? I would not want to go back, number one. Wrestling for the WWE is it's more politics and mumble jumble than it is about the actual wrestling entertainment. Yeah. If it was just wrestling entertainment and the culture would be good, they would make, I believe at least, they would make 10x on what they make. They would build bigger fans because people, I believe people attract people, and people can see that. People can see who people really are. And so it's just interesting, number one. With the competitions, with Doug, with the other wrestlers, there are some amazing wrestlers that, like Doug, that are doing great things in life, that have went from wrestling to, becoming amazing humans. And not saying he wasn't before, but, just being amazing humans after, being in sports.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
The next thing I wanted to bring up was, this is something that I've been obsessively thinking about the last few days. And this is the situation that you have been thrusted into here, where winning Tough Enough. And I looked at the history books of who won Tough Enough and what came of it. And also the ones that didn't win, that came runner-up or 4th, 5th, 7th, 8th, got disqualified before even getting into the damn thing. And what happened with those people. So I want to kind of lay this out here for you and see if you dig what I've got to say about it. I feel like winning tough enough, you are destined to fail because of the wrestling bubble and what comes along with it. So you are going to win a competition. Let's say it's 10 weeks. You win a competition after 10 weeks, and now you get a contract with the WWE, and all those guys backstage worked for years to get their contract with WWE. So all the guys in the back, number one, they already have you or anyone else who won tough enough under a microscope, under the scrutiny. They're immediately going to be looking for the negatives in you to try and bury you because they don't want you taking their spot because you've been thrusted into this position, highlighted on television, having this massive opportunity, taking advantage of it. And so, number one, I wanted to see what you thought of that. You know, the wrestlers already are going to target you because you didn't come in the same way that they did, or the other winners, they didn't come in the same way. And the results speak for itself. There are a couple of anomalies that I'll get to, but did you feel that? Did you feel that heat?
So I sure felt something.
Yeah.
Here's my opinion. Bill Gates is Bill Gates because he surrounds himself with the right people. He looks for talent. Even though he's talented, or a Jeff Bezos made more money faster than Bill Gates.
Yeah.
Elon Musk made more money faster than I think Jeff Bezos. Don't quote me on that, but I could do the timeline. But in the last 5 years, he gained more wealth faster per capita, per time period. So they do this because of looking at the scenario and looking at how they can utilize not only talent, but resources, technology, and everything. What I was really, really good at was I had a website up and rolling. I think I was the only guy besides Miz that had a website right in the beginning because I knew that it was by fan vote. So people are going to go somewhere and want to learn more.
Yeah.
What wrestlers aren't taught, most athletes in general, aren't taught on two things. Number one, how to build relationships and understand how to put team around, because most people are like amateur wrestlers, for instance, or football players. When you walk on to the mat or the football field or the basketball court or whatever, you're given something. You're given a coach. Here's your coach. It's like giving somebody some keys. Here's your coach. They're never earning a coach. In wrestling, pro wrestling, and MMA, it's a little different. You have to go to a pro wrestling school. You have to, like Gangrel School here in South Florida. You have to go to an MMA gym. But again, most of those coaches are not top notch. They're not like top tier, grade A, like a Frank Shamrock, Javier Mendez. So the one thing that I learned early was Frank built relationships. Javier built relationships. Wrestlers aren't as smart in general because they learn how to work it. They don't learn how to build authentic relationships and see talent. They think talent is a competition versus an addition.
Yeah.
In school, in the beginning, when all three of us are taking a test, if I look over you and I say, "Hey, what's the answer to number 3?" That's called cheating. In the real world, if all three of us are trying to solve a problem, it's called collaboration.
Yeah.
The challenge is that they have a lot of hate for people that could potentially take their job versus understanding how to be better. Now, if they were smart, from my opinion, and this is the first time I've ever talked about like this, so it's good. From my opinion, if they were smart and they would have seen this kid that just got 4 times the rating that they did, and that had a huge brand, and they could bring more eyeballs. Because guess what people get paid on? People get paid on their weekly salary. People get paid on how many shows they do. People get paid on the product they sell with their name on it. People get paid on the pay-per-view time they're on. So let me ask you, so if people are getting more pay-per-view eyeballs, more pay-per-view dollars are created, that means they make more. What they don't understand is the ability that if they had 4 Tough Enough champions or 15 or 20 Tough Enough champions and Divas champions and all these things, they had all this, they would be making more money. All of them, because it's a collective. It's a brand. If you leave WWE, you don't make that much money. Just as a general. Not, I mean, some people can go out there and make good money because they're just rock stars. So I did feel something when I was there. At some points it felt like crap because you get tossed under the bus. And at some points I looked at it as there's hurt people.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, they know nothing. It's like a blind person. You can't tell a blind person if they've never seen anything. People are just blind in their emotions. They're blind in their life. They're blind in their beliefs. Like, and you can't change somebody. The only thing you can do is offer them something else, and they have to choose it and see it for themselves.
Yeah. So there was another point I wanted to make. And that's
was that the answer you're looking for?
That's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was fantastic. So the second part of this is about backstage personnel, producers, agents, creative team people. They already know that a tough enough winner, this is just my hypothesis. They already know a tough enough winner has a target on their back from all the guys in the back. So they're not going to hitch their wagon to that person and vouch for them and help them along the way, because if it doesn't work out because it's destined to fail because of the wrestlers, then they go down in the pecking order, and it hurts the way that they are seen by the other producers or their bosses above them, because they vouched for something that didn't end up working out because it wasn't going to work out because of the aforementioned situation with the wrestlers. So that was point number 2 as to why I feel like tough enough winners were destined to fail no matter what. Because if you look at the history books, the only 2 guys that actually won the thing that had longevity, as far as like on TV, on, under contract for several years, were Maven and John Hennigan. Now, Maven, I believe, this is another hypothesis, that worked for him because he was the first Tough Enough winner. So you have to show that this idea works.
Yeah.
So it worked for Maven. John, I don't know what the anomaly there is with him. I just think maybe one person finally did hitch their wagon to him and vouch for him and give him a chance. Everyone else that won, Linda Miles, Jackie Gator, Matt Capitelli, rest in peace, Josh Breedle, who won the latest one, Andy Levine, who won the one with Stone Cold as the host. A couple of them got to be on TV for a little while, but nothing really ever came of it. But then you look at people like The Miz, Ryback, Boogeyman, Mitch. Yeah, all people that didn't win, they were accepted into the WWE. My hypothesis, again, because they didn't win, they had to go back and train. And then when they come back, the wrestlers say, oh, hey, they never gave up on their dream. We're going to give these people a chance to come along and be a part of this thing. What do you think, Daniel, of my little experiment and my little research there into why a tough enough winner is destined to fail?
I think you're pretty spot on. I mean, even Dan Rodheimer had a contract, I think, for like 3 or 4 years, and I think he was like third, like 4th or 5th off or something like that. So, and everybody, what I find is everybody that they bring on has talent. It comes down, like, not everybody, most people have the talent and will to want to. What I find is because they put them through a video and an interview and this and that and a physical thing, and they weed them down, right? 10,000 to 8. You're really picking some pretty unique talent at that point. So I find that it's like when I hire an employee, the only difference between when I hire an employee and I have to go through 150, 200 resumes, whatever it takes, is that I want to make sure that employee does their job and excels. Because if they don't, I lose money.
Yeah.
So to me, it makes no sense financially for me to hire somebody and throw them under the bus.
Yeah.
And so it is what it is. I mean, at the end of the day, what I think, my thought, just thinking out loud, what should have happened is they should have taken like a Kurt Angle, a hardcore Holly, not a hardcore Holly, but maybe like a Kurt Angle. Chris Benoit was great last, when he was around. Somebody like a Chris Benoit or like an Eddie Guerrero or a Kurt Angle, and had them as like mentors. And they said, you know what, you're mentoring this person for the next 10 years. You're going to build this person into a superstar, and you're going to be responsible for them. So here are the ways to mentor them. Here's how to set them and get them a coach, right? Get them a wrestling coach, get them a psychology coach, or, a performance coach, get them everything, because the amount of money they put into something, it's 20, 30, 40 mil, whatever it is, right? For the trainings and just to go into Venice Beach. I mean, they had probably 40, 50 people down there. I mean, think about the salaries, the flights, it's expensive to put all this together, and the advertising, so I think that like a national ad I heard is, tens of thousands of dollars, right? So, if you're running a 30-second spot on a show, there's a cost. So why not build somebody into your system and make them your future rock stars? And then make like a Royal Rumble for Tough Enough champions. Make like, those competitions, or make like the ultimate team, like where they come together with their superhero, like Marvel has done. Like, look at how much Marvel makes on movies. And if WWE were to think about making their rock stars, and I'm not talking about the Spirit Squad, by the way. No, I'm talking about like, Daniel Puder has a nonprofit. So he's got like the heart, and you take these people that have these different, ways that they live and who they are as humans, like Dan Rodine, rock star, politician. Like, you could literally bring these people together, and that would be the ultimate, like, people would tune in for that all day.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
It is what it is.
Yeah, man. Before I throw it back to Jack, I did want to bring up that I wasn't really aware of this incident that you had with the Big Show backstage, but I listened to I listened to Bruce Pritchard talk about it on his show, and that's someone I want to bring up at some point too, because I don't agree with what he had to say in regards to you. But I was very disappointed to hear that Big Show would put his hands on somebody and throw them around. And I don't know. It just kind of disgusted me a little bit that happened. And for Bruce Pritchard on his show to say, oh, well, I mean, it's a different time now, so it wouldn't happen now, but that's just the way it was back then. And maybe Daniel Puder had never been in a locker room before. So what are you going on about? Like, I don't care what happens in any locker rooms in the world. No one should be putting their hands on anybody and throwing them around and treating them like that. So I just wanted to say that, because sometimes Bruce Pritchard pisses me off with the things that he says and the way that he tries to justify things with his answers. So,
hey, anybody can justify something. Yeah. Teamwork is teamwork, and hurting people is hurting people. So if you want to justify hurt, it's kind of like a terrorist justifying their bombing. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, 100%.
It is what that's all I gotta say.
For him to try and spin it like it was your fault, to not know that it was coming, that's dumb. Anyway, over to you, Jack, to I'm sure the question that Daniel has answered a million and one times, but I'm sure some of our...
Yes, I kicked his ass. I would do it again. And at the end of the day, he won't fight me in the UFC. He won't fight me in Strikeforce. He won't fight me on the street. And he definitely won't want to wrestle me, because I would kick his ass there too. And then he would be like, but I'm just old and my arm hurts. So it is what it is.
Kurt Angle for those playing at home. All right, next question. I actually genuinely think that was actually good enough for an answer for that question, because we all know what happened.
We all know what happened. I don't need Daniel to repeat himself a million
We've watched
times,
it. It's fucking, it's
the only thing I want to say is like, man, you have that opportunity right there. You want to talk about having the brass ring dangled in front of you. Daniel Puder took that fucking brass ring, got in the ring, and it's called the Daniel Puder Kurt Angle incident. It was an incident that everyone remembers. So there we go.
That's
You know, every year it makes top 10 on something. Top 10, top 5, top 100, top this, top that, best moments. Like, it's really interesting. I get Google alerts, and it's like, hey, Daniel Puder and Kurt Angle. I'm like, again, this is all. This thing is they don't. They're more worried about their egos than actually giving people what they want.
Yeah,
that's right, man. I still think it's an interesting story. As recent as 2 years ago, I was, just rabbit hole researching, and there you go, stuck into this incident again. So it's one of those stories, man. It's just an awesome story, and I think it defines the run as a whole to show how much of a badass you were. But I wanted to also ask, what was your initial reaction, and how did you feel to actually winning the competition after 10 weeks? I mean, I don't think you would have been surprised, but what was your initial reaction, and how did you feel about it winning the competition?
So my feeling was surprise.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Because that day they had me cut a heel promo in the back.
Right. Okay.
And they had Miz cut a babyface promo. And Miz and I were talking, and he was getting like 76, I think it was 76,000 unique viewers a day on his website. And I was getting like 30.
Yeah.
Obviously he had a bigger brand. So I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, I mean, I busted my ass. I've done what I can do, but, I was shocked. I was literally shocked.
Right.
That because I think they spun it. They were, and so, and I was pretty confident going into that day, but then they spun everything on me. So then I was like, oh my gosh, I might have lost. Like, this can't, yeah, it was a good day. I was, here's my thought is I did a year with WWE. It's added a ton of value to my life. It's opened up doors. It hasn't opened, but I've used it to open up doors. People love the WWE. They think it's an amazing place. They don't know what really goes on, but it is what it is. And with that and MMA fighting and being a world weightlifting champ, having that sports side of it gave me the ability to see different perspectives and go through different challenges. And so whether it was with the Kurt Angles or with the Bashams or whatever it was, I'm super blessed for the experience and for the ability to learn and for the growth. And it definitely pushed me being in WWE to be my authentic self and be real, and I grew a ton. And I look back now and it was 15 years ago, and I'm like, holy smokes, that was a different me, but it defined who I was today.
That's right, man. It's a great way to look back on it. I mean, so many people look back on those times people have had 20 times better of a run there than you did. And they look back on that time like it was the worst, years of their life.
When I spoke to Mo from Men on a Mission, every time I asked a question, it was just negativity. I felt bad. I couldn't turn it around. Some of these guys had these great runs and wrestled on WrestleMania and all that stuff. And so for you to have a positive outlook, Daniel, is, fantastic.
Well, here's my thought is I get to wake up X amount more days, right? Like I've had people like Matt Capitelli, right? Like, people don't live as long as I live. I've been to third world countries. I've seen the challenges we have. My dad's come through cancer a couple of times. My grandma used to fall on her face and break hips when she was alive. And so I've had, there's been that hurt and pain. There's been that challenges. There's been, and I have an amazing fiance with a newborn. He's 10 weeks old, 11 weeks old now.
Oh, man.
And so it's amazing to be able to – I have amazing business partners and great people in my life. I live – you guys can see it right here. I live on the water with,
I was going to say, that's incredible.
You know what I'm saying? I've busted my ass. I spent the first 8 years of a nonprofit not paying myself, like living barely, like it was more about honing in to impact people's lives than it was to make money. And even my second dad, who's like a mentor to me, he was like, what are you doing, kid? Like, come work for one of my companies and you'll make a ton of money. And I'm like, life isn't about money. I've had the money. I've had the fame. I've had the, the big fights. I've had the wrestling. it's not about that. The entertainment's great, but what is even more amazing is to, hug your son when you can spend time. So I'm in a place now where I have multiple companies. I can travel if I want. I know there's COVID, but I was in India with the Dalai Lama, or I can travel around the country. I speak all the time. I have amazing contracts. I impact people's lives. So entertainment is awesome, but it's not real life. Like it's the entertainment. It's the impacting people's lives. And somehow, do you want to just entertain them, or do you want to actually really impact society? And so I chose to really impact society, and that's to me, I believe that's one of the biggest things people can go do. Because entertainment's easy. Like, anybody can entertain, but you can be a crappy, human and entertain people and make them laugh, but can you actually change the world in your lifetime? Can you add more value to communities? Can you solve problems? So that's where I'm coming from at this point. And I've been here for about 10 years in this context and mindset. And before that, I didn't know anything different. I was told to go be a rock star and be a champion and be a fighter. And I explored through all that stuff. I explored to really see what meant something to me in this world. And I think so many people are bitter because they don't use their experiences to build their future. They're lost.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. It's a lot to think about. Yeah. Was there anyone on the roster that you really connected with the most?
So I think Hardcore Holly actually trained me for a while. And then he talked smack in his book, which is interesting. People don't want to let people close, I guess. Well, vulnerability doesn't feel good sometimes. Al Snow. I'm still in contact with him. Dan Rodheimer. We're really good friends. I actually put his name on a school. So there's some amazing people. I find that, spending time with certain people, like Al Snow, who has so much wisdom, so much like love for, wrestling. I'm excited to go see him again when I'm in Kentucky. But besides that, there's not that many people that I stay in contact with anymore. But I didn't really connect with too many people. Like the Undertaker was always very nice and cordial. But besides that, there wasn't much. Eddie Guerrero was an amazing human. I really liked Eddie. He was great.
No, he was incredible, man. It's just another one of those cases gone too early. But I mean, in 15 years on, people still remember and still talk about him. He
One
gets
of my favorites, man.
all the time. About how great he was
Yeah.
as a cousin. Carl, I want to let you ask this next question. You've got a note here saying you'll probably have something to say here. So go nuts.
Oh, well, okay. Well, you fight the Miz in a Dixie dog fight. I mean, I don't know why they had to call it that, but at Armageddon in 2004. And your final appearance is obviously at the Royal Rumble, which is the one thing I did want to talk about that a little bit. But you're going in there. How much is Miz shitting himself knowing that he has to fight you in that match, knowing that you have a background in fighting whilst he's I guess an MTV kind of
three 1 minute rounds. I mean, he did good.
Yeah,
He did bad. He did not do bad. I watched the first round tonight, man, and there was one point I was like, hang on, the Miz actually he might actually have something here. He's kind of got hands.
Yeah.
Kinda.
Yeah. I mean, he's a feisty. He can. I mean, like we did the jousting deal at one point. That wasn't hard. I mean, at the end of the day, it's 3 1 minute rounds. You give me 2 minute rounds with him, 3 minute rounds, 4 minute rounds, 5 minute rounds. I'll toast him. I mean, give me 1 minute rounds. The most I can do is just go after him. And if he's just punching the whole time, unless I connect with him, and I think they gave us like 16 or 18 on gloves. Like it is what it is. Like,
gloves,
I mean, dude, but the Miz, I'm not going to take anything away from him either. He's tough. He goes all out. Like he's very impressive. He did great in real world back in the day. He did great in WWE. I mean, he's a rock star. Like I'm very proud of his accomplishments, and you know, he was always he's a smart ass, but he'd probably say that about me too. But he's very driven, and you know, if any company were to take him, period, they would succeed with him.
Yeah. I remember I used to hate him for years. And then now the situation that wrestling is in right now, I just realized how good he actually is. That dude is phenomenal.
Yeah.
One of a kind. But I want to say this about the Royal Rumble that you were a part of. I was thinking about it earlier, and I'm like, okay, this guy's won Tough Enough. He's got a $250,000 contract for this first year. And the plan for the Rumble is to have him get eaten up and chopped to death in the ring instead of maybe taking advantage of, you know, the situation and trying to build him up into something. What did you think about all of that? Because when I watched it, I'm like, why would you do this? You've invested all this money in the winner of Tough Enough. Why are you doing this? It makes no sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
What point was being proven there?
Nothing.
You're asking the wrong guy on that one.
Idiots, man. Why invest all this money into something if you just, yeah. Anyway, look, you don't, there's nothing really to say about it because I've already said it, then I guess.
It's crazy. Again, it's crazy. It's crazy that, you know, I mean, some of the writers, you know, are crazy. Yeah. Like legit
Nuts.
Like, because the thing is, they're not tied into making financial decisions. They don't understand what it takes to build a human. And if you build a human and you put them on the biggest show you've ever had and give them $1 million contract and do all these things, they're not responsible for that money. So they're like, oh, let's do this. Let's do that. Let's play politics.
Yeah, so stupid.
They're not responsible. So why would they even care, you know, about give people responsibility when they earn and they earn the responsibility and they understand the value.
Mm. Yeah. Back to you, Jack.
Yeah, sure. So I've only got one last one before I actually throw it back to you, Carl. So when did you first get sent down to OVW and how was that experience? We've had a lot of our guests talk about the experience with OVW. Most of it being actually pretty positive. So I'd like to hear your experience with OVW.
Danny Davis was amazing. Paul Heyman, that's another person. I really like Paul. He really took me under his wing, added value. It was great. It was good. It was different. Like to spend 4 or 5 hours a day training for wrestling. It was, you know, I have this thing. I'm used to going into the gym for a couple hours, busting my ass and leaving. But sitting there and watching, it was definitely a new experience for me. You know, I have like this, they labeled me like ADHD, right? Like, you know, I'm like, come on, let's go. Let me work out. Let me do my stuff. And so it was always, you know, I wanted to learn more. I wanted to grow. But it was challenging for me sometimes just to sit there for hours and just watch other people versus actually train myself.
I get that. Yeah. It did seem like there was a lot of, it seemed like a very tight-knit group, like very tight-knit classes. And a ton of just, it was a lot of tape watching as well, from what I've heard. We've had people put over Danny Davis like no tomorrow on this podcast as well as being such a great trainer. And as well, Carl, you recently spoke to someone from OVW. I believe he was an OVW trainer with Rip Rogers.
Oh, Rip Rogers, yeah.
But yeah, I don't think you would have done anything with him, Daniel. But yeah, back to you, Carl. Anyway.
So I wanted to talk to you about Paul Heyman because I know there was I guess he was writing OVW television at the time as well, right?
He was.
So, okay. This is a memory that I have because my friend Ben had acquired all the episodes of OVW television. This is years ago now. That Paul Heyman had written. And I remember watching some of those episodes, and the way that he utilized you was perfect. And it's the perfect way that you could have been utilized in WWE. You were a killer. You were coming out there. You were, using that key lock, which obviously was the most sensible route to go as far as, the move that you were going to do to take people down. I just wanted to ask you about the experience with Paul and how he did so much for the Daniel Puder character in such a short amount of time there. I just thought, from what I remember watching, like, this was great. WWE should have done this from the outset. Obviously they didn't, but Paul got it. So, tell me a little bit about that.
Paul's a genius when he writes stuff. I mean, like what he did with Brock Lesnar, genius. So he understood what a real fighter was. WWE understands what a pro wrestler is. So there's a different context of how to, win the war. And he used me well. Obviously, what you said earlier about Tough Enough's, jumping in, Tough Enough champions jumping in and just rocking, and flopping a lot of time, is because I never did pro wrestling before. I was taught how to beat people up for a living. So it's a different world. If they would have given me a couple more years, where they would have really pushed me and built me, they would have had a different me. I would be in a different position. But
absolutely,
they didn't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just, to me, it's just remarkable. Again, as I brought up before, $250,000 contract. They're expecting a return, within a year on that, or however long it was. I mean, to me, that's insane to think that, to expect that much so soon. Because I listened to something that Kurt Angle said in a shoot interview earlier tonight, and he had said, like, they gave him a new contract with a pay cut because apparently he wasn't any good. He was horrible. And I'm like, well, he's not supposed to be amazing in such a short amount of time. You got to train the guy. It's like Linda Miles and Jackie Gator, who won season 2, I believe. They weren't trained long enough, and they put them on TV, and then they expect them to be able to perform to the same level as a Chris Benoit or a Kurt Angle. How is that supposed to happen? So I just think it's, again, another scenario where you can't win. You get offered this new contract, and I believe there was a massive pay cut there. You make the decision to walk away. What made you decide that?
Yeah, it was more about how they handled it. And if they're going to have me win $1 million Tough Enough, and then they're going to offer me, I don't know, it was like $50,000 a year, something like that.
Yeah.
Which is a lot more than a lot of the trainees. But at the end of the day, it was more about the concept versus the money. The money I wasn't worried about. But when you take somebody and you build somebody and you tell them, I mean, it would make my brand at that point go down the tube, because fans would go, oh, he's not $1 million Tough Enough.
Yeah.
$50,000 Tough Enough. So it's just interesting. I was more taken back, or, per se offended by their commitment, because I committed on how I busted my ass. It just came down to, them not following through.
Yeah. So again, with my research, I looked at your Wikipedia article, and I thought it was weird that Kenny Bolin has comments that he made in response to something that you had said about working in a barn in front of 20 people or something like that, and making you think to yourself that maybe wrestling isn't for you, or whatever it was. And I just thought it was weird that his response is on your Wikipedia article. Like, whatever you had to say has to be debunked on your Wikipedia article. I thought a Wikipedia article was supposed to be about the one person and what they did, not about a back and forth between one person and another. But anyway, Kenny made some comments about if Daniel didn't fall asleep backstage. I don't know what he said. Fall asleep or doze off. If he spent less time on his laptop and on his phone, then maybe he would have drawn more than 20 people. I just wanted to give you the chance to have a rebuttal to that if anyone hasn't asked you that before, because I kind of don't really believe what he says there.
So yeah, for sure. I was doing a lot of marketing, a lot of branding. I was
Yeah.
doing impacting lives. I was going into Shriners hospitals. Was I on my laptop and computer? Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no, like, to me, there's no rebuttal to that, right? Like, I lived my life how I wanted it. I won, I won the tough enough. I mean, Kenny can say whatever he wants. He's where he's at, and I'm where I'm at. And I love where I'm at.
Yeah. So I
If somebody wants to talk smack, somebody can talk smack all day. I mean, I don't go around talking smack about him or his lifestyle decisions or, hey, if you were to do this or do that, maybe you'd be better at what you do. Like, I'm not here to critique him. If he wants to talk smack, he can do it.
Cool, man. So I guess we should start wrapping up this interview now. But before we get there, I just wanted to also give you a chance to have a rebuttal to One Tank Abbott, who had said something in an interview about you, about how he showed up in shape, and then apparently you chickened out on fighting him. I don't know how many years ago that was now, maybe like 10 years ago. But
So what can you tell me what shape he showed up in? Because there's different shapes, right? Like people. I'm not, it's how he shows up. Like, look at his fights. He shows up in a shape.
yeah,
So,
literally.
at the end of the day, we were putting a fight together and it didn't work out. It is what it is. Like, I would have loved to fight him. I would have loved to had the name of the legacy killer, of whooping his ass. I think he's a great brand to beat. So that's why
definitely.
I wanted to fight him. He can talk smack all day, but at the end of the day, Tank, what do you got, bro?
Yeah, exactly.
So Daniel, we end the show with a short segment. It's called 5 Second Frenzy. We just ask you 10 quick fire questions just to see what you like about other things in your life, a couple of wrestling related ones, but it's just like you got 5 seconds to answer each question. Are you ready?
Okay. Ready.
Cool. Okay, Daniel, who is your favorite wrestler?
Today, Al Snow.
Nice.
Your favorite opponent that you ever had?
The Miz.
The favorite match you've ever had?
Kurt Angle.
Wicked. That's a great answer.
I was going to say, I also want to give a shout out to your match with Johnny Jeter for the OVW title. That was some great stuff. So, and that also, Kurt Angle in his interview said apparently that you were horrible. No, I watched that match and it was smooth as hell. Your favorite TV show?
Oh, wow. Suits was one of them.
Nice. Favorite film?
I just watched Columbia. I think it's called Columbia.
Okay.
Columbiana, something like that. Oh,
Yep.
A chick that goes and freaking gets revenge on her family.
Okay, cool. I think I've seen something about that. Your favorite food?
Sushi.
Nice. Favorite place to eat on the road? Or just a restaurant you like?
Waffle House.
Yeah, we get that so much.
Every time.
Every time. I know you said earlier you don't drink, so if you don't have a favorite alcoholic beverage, what is something that you just like to drink?
Chai lattes, green tea, coffee, cold brew.
Nice.
Water.
And the second last one here, your favorite female body part?
I like my fiance.
The whole package.
The whole package.
Her body, her whole thing, the whole body is sexy.
Fantastic, bro. Congratulations. And the last one on 5 Second Frenzy, your favorite curse word?
I don't know. People say I curse once in a while, but I don't think I really curse that much.
I haven't heard you
No?
curse yet.
I haven't heard him curse at all. I think we
No.
have, Jack,
Yeah.
but we're Australian, so.
back in the day, maybe I did, but I don't do it as much anymore. So I really don't have a favorite.
That's fine, bro. Well, Daniel Puder, I want to thank you so much for your time here tonight. Once we finish recording, we just want to ask you one more thing, but I just want to say me and Jack, we're really excited to talk to you, and you did not disappoint. You're doing so many great things, and I wish what you're doing now was going on when me and Jack were in high school, because that really would have helped us out in our life. So you're doing incredible things in life. You are a fucking rock star, and you are killing it every single day. You should be so proud of what you've achieved in life. This planet is better and a better place because you are on it. And, your infamous stuff in the WWE, everyone will still be talking about that in another 15, 16 years. So thank you for your time. I hope you're proud of everything you've done and achieved, my friend.
Thank you guys for your time today. I really appreciate having me on, and it'd be a blessing to take you guys out to lunch or dinner sometime.
Excellent,
Awesome,
bro. Hopefully we'll be over there in the next few years when all this crazy stuff dies down.
We'll have to keep in touch and we're together, man.
Excellent.
Please. Thank you guys so much. Have an amazing week. Have a great New Year's.
Thanks, Daniel. And thank you everyone out there for watching the WZWA Network here and the show here with the one and only Daniel Puder. We will see you guys in 2021. We will see you next time. Thank you.